Welcome back to Rise and Rouse, a podcast for those who give a damn. This is your host, Erin Allgood, social impact strategist, consultant, and queer artist. On the podcast today, I talk with Randall Nielsen and Ashley Johnson from Queerlective, a queer artist nonprofit based in New Hampshire. We talk about how important it is to build inclusive spaces for queer and BIPOC folks within the state, and how important it is to give everyone an artistic outlet. This is an amazing, wonderful conversation that really taps into the leadership journey that Randall and Ashley have both been on and speaks to just how important this work is within the state. I hope you enjoy. Thanks. Hello and welcome to Rise and Rouse. I'm so excited to have Ashley Johnson here and Randall Nielsen from Queerlective. We're going to talk all about art today. I'm so pumped. Randall is the Executive Director of Queerlective. Ashley is the Marketing Director. So we're going to have a chance to really talk about the history of Queerlective, the impetus for it, and learn a little bit more about how these two are creating change in the world alongside all the other amazing folks at Queerlective. Randall, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more and add a little more context to that first.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Randall Nielsen. My pronouns are he, him. I've been in New Hampshire for about 7 years. I moved up here from Boston because I went to Boston University. My first couple of years in New Hampshire, I really struggled to find a community. And I really would say that I spent the first 4 years while I lived in New Hampshire, basically just kind of hiding in my apartment. And through that time, I met my fantastic fiance, Jason, but I still really struggled to find that community that would allow me to be my most authentic self. Towards the end of the pandemic, I think the beginning of 2022, the end of 2021, I really went through kind of this mental health crisis because I wasn't surrounding myself with my community. I wasn't being authentic to myself. I was really putting myself in situations where I was surrounded by people that were essentially like dimming my light. And at the end of 2021, I felt this really big need to be more authentic to myself and try to explore these aspects of myself that I hadn't before, that I was interested in. And one of those was art. And so I made the decision to pursue art semi-seriously. And through that, I was connected to Ashley and Taylor, who are also on our board, through organizing Manchester's Pride Festival that year in 2022. And following that, the four of us really recognized this really tremendous and fantastic opportunity to create more consistent, more community-based opportunities for the queer BIPOC community to gather and to do that while utilizing art as that kind of nexus or tool for driving community change. And so, the reception from the community out of the gate was really, really, really tremendous. And I remember our first event in September, just a couple months after we formed, which felt like this like really crazy, like we didn't know what we were doing. But since then, we've gone through so much change, so much growth, both within the team and within the organization, but also within the community here in New Hampshire. And so, I'm really excited to have been able to be a part of that. Outside of that, I'm also a Manchester City Arts Commissioner and elevating the arts for everybody. I think that New Hampshire's art scene needs to have a little bit more of this community-focused lens and utilizing art in a engaging and intentional, meaningful way for everybody. And so, I think I will talk more about that going forward. But that was one of my first of many rambles that I'll go on during our conversation. Thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to you and Ashley.
Yeah. Ashley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, hello. I'm Ashley, she, her. I was born and raised in New Hampshire, and similar to Randall, I started this journey by seeking community. I came out a few years ago and really wanted to make connections with the queer community in New Hampshire and feel those like safe, inclusive spaces. So I had gone to a Pride event the year that I came out and can only explain it as feeling like home, and found myself wanted to get more involved in that. And so I also volunteered to help organize the Manchester, New Hampshire Pride that year or the following year. And in doing so, I met Jason, Randall, and me and Taylor were friends prior to that as well. And throughout the months of planning, I think we all became friends, and it all kind of came to a head after Pride was over. And we all were just feeling like, that's it, like it's over, right? And so there was a very clear gap in New Hampshire, I think, that we wanted to fill to create those spaces and environments for the queer community and other marginalized communities to be able to make those connections and build those relationships and have that feeling of being at home. And so, like, we kind of just asked ourselves, what is the best way that we want to do this? And being more than just event organizers, we wanted to be educators and change makers and community builders. And so we kind of came up with this concept of Queerlective, and all made a commitment on a tubing trip. So it kind of it all started on a river one day.
Oh, I love that so much. That's like, those are the origin stories that don't always get told. So I appreciate you sharing that. So I think one of the things that I love so much about Queerlective is that it's this idea of arts, queer folks coming together in community, and about empowering artists to take leadership roles too. And that to me, when that finally all clicked, I remember in a conversation with Randall at one point, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm so happy that you're filling that role there. What have been some of like the best parts of starting the organization?
There have been so many. I will say, I always make this joke, but our board role descriptions when we bring on like new board members, I think that the job role needs to include being okay with cry after events.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of times. I remember even just our first event, which was the Queer Art Takeover and Hop Knot Birthday Bash. I love ridiculously long names. And I remember that event, we got there to set up. It was supposed to be outside, but it was so windy. I know like one vendor, her table broke because it was so windy. I was trying to carry some tables like into the space, and they were like flying out vertically because of the wind. And we were like, what do we do? Thankfully, we were able to move the event inside. And also, thankfully, all of the vendors are very flexible and very cooperative with making that change. And the event went pretty good. I mean, it was our first event. The turnout wasn't tremendous, but it was really solid. And we sent out some surveys following just to see how participants and vendors felt. And we went through and like looked at what people were posting on social media about the event. And just the number of comments about people talking about how much they appreciated the sense of the community that they got, and how they felt like this is something that they needed. This is something that was really important to them. And I that was definitely one of the first times that after the event, we're all sitting at home trying to relax after an exhausting day, but we're also just like texting each other like, I love you so much. I mean, I'm so happy that we're doing this together, because it really is so emotional to be able to provide these things for the community. So
yeah, it's not easy starting an organization, and
it is not.
Not at all.
It is not. Oh my gosh.
And I super loved meeting you all, and just getting a chance to hear what your ideas were and just share some initial thoughts as you were starting to form up, and give you a couple of pointers of here's the steps you need to take to get to become a formal organization and things like that. Hopefully it was helpful. I can't remember anything that I said during that initial conversation, but I remember being like, oh, look at all these awesome people.
it was definitely very helpful, but also quite overwhelming.
I probably just spewed a lot of information at you.
We were also at that point, we didn't know enough to know what questions to ask. And so I remember the conversation was just like, just trying to navigate all of the nuances and the things that we had to go through to become a nonprofit. And a lot of questions were like, can we do this if we don't have our nonprofit status yet? It's like a very interesting, like, gray area for an organization becoming a nonprofit. And so there's a lot of stuff that not clear answers, but your info was very helpful.
Good. I'm happy that was the case. But knowing that it's also so hard to get things started, I mean, that's the stuff that is like that nitty gritty that is challenging. But like, what were some of the other aspects that were challenging as you were getting going?
So, I mean, besides the obvious that none of us had experience starting a nonprofit before this, and right from the start, it was just lesson after lesson after lesson, which can be really, I think, debilitating when you have the perspective of like, oh, we're doing everything wrong. And I think what was challenging for us is framing that in a more positive light of we aren't necessarily doing things wrong. We could just do them better for next time. And I think having that shift in mindset really helped us, and something that we struggled with then, and I think sometimes still struggle with now, is realizing that we are such a small team. I mean, for a while, there were only 3 of us doing all of this. And, you know, we had so many things that we wanted to do, and we wanted to do them all so fast, but we had to step back and acknowledge that we can't do anything if we burn ourselves out. And so kind of discovering when we could take those baby steps or when we could take those leaps, I think was a turning point for us in realizing, you know, to move forward with our mission in a way that's healthy for all of us. It's just been huge. And I think we've been making a lot better progression since then. You know, we're only human, and there's only so much that any one of us can do. It does all still feel so worth it. I think selfishly, it's been very self-fulfilling. You know, I wanted a community, and I've helped build one, and now I have that. And also, it's just, you know, Randall mentioned, like, we cry after every event is, I think, both a mix of, oh my God, that was so stressful. And so many things happened that we weren't anticipating. And just kind of like we're coming down from the adrenaline, right? And so it's like our bodies can breathe and we just cry. But also just how good did that feel? And how incredible was it seeing all of the magic happen and all of these people coming together and supporting one another and just uplifting each other it's incredible. And, you know, I'm starting to get a little teary-eyed just thinking about it, because it's been a journey, and a lot of it's been so hard, but I truly wouldn't change a single thing about it.
Yeah, being okay with failure was absolutely something that we had to learn as a team. I'm somebody that is quite okay with failure, and so I'm kind of okay taking these big leaps and just seeing what happens. And a lot of times you do have to pivot, but there is a bit of a balance between our team, because while I'm not super afraid of failure, the rest of the core team was very much focused on maintaining that sustained momentum. And yeah, it's a very interesting balance between all of the team members, but it's great to have people that you can really rely on, but also people that look at these kind of strategic things different from how you do. And there have been a number of times where I'm like, come on, let's just do it. And they're like, no, it's not time yet. And I'm like, fine.
He says
fine.
They, but really what he's saying is Ashley says no.
No, Ashley is not the only one that's
yeah,
Jason says no too.
Jason's been great about that too. But I think that's the other thing too, is finding, I mean, we were still new friends when all of this started, and so we were still very much learning about one another, and
which is crazy.
Yeah.
We barely knew each other. That's so wild to think about.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Us working together was just a beautiful, well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And we had obviously a lot of challenging things, but having you two as part of the core team was really tremendous. And actually, if I think about it, it's a big part of the reason why I've been able to grow as a leader since then, because I needed at the beginning of Queerlective, we did have a little bit of a potential bigger group of people to bring in, but starting an organization, like you said, is not easy. And so me being a brand new leader, I am still trying to figure out the vision and consolidating everybody's ideas for what this can be, while also delegating these roles. And it can be really challenging to do that when you don't know what you're doing just yet. And so the team to get whittled down to just the three of us. But since then, everybody's really just found their niche and their role within what Queerlective is doing. But on the other end, now that we're trying to expand, we have to kind of reevaluate what every team member is doing and think intentionally and strategically about our current strengths and what Queerlective needs to continue to grow, and who in our community has the right kind of vision and excitement and enthusiasm and commitment to be able to bring that to the team. And so, yeah, I'm very excited to say that we have also grown our team very recently this year with some fantastic new members that have hit the ground running, and we're really excited for what they're bringing to Queerlective.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. And I think part of that too is continuing to ask ourselves how we differentiate ourselves from other organizations, because certainly there are other organizations locally that have similar goals of bringing together communities. And we didn't want to be just another one that did that same thing. And so I think us just building on that together and growing together as individuals and as an organization, I think is a huge step to move us forward that I'm both scared and excited about.
I'm just so glad that you all are talking about this the way that you're talking about this, because you've been able to grow as leaders. You've been able to learn how to work with one another, which is one of the hardest things, as we all know in our day-to-day lives. The idea of being strategic is really awesome to hear you say that. Both of you say that too, because I think one of the things I see with organizations that are early stage and just getting things off the ground is everybody wants to do everything. It's a buckshot approach to this. Let's do all the things, because there's excitement and energy and momentum at that point. So the idea of Ashley, you pulling people back and saying no, we're going to do this smartly, strategically. We're not going to just burn ourselves out. That's amazing. I'm so excited to hear you say that. But and knowing that so many folks are finding you and feeling, and you're getting that feedback that people are really, there was such a need for this kind of an organization, this kind of community that you're building. Why is that so important? Why do you think that is?
I think it's so limited, right? And it goes beyond just pulling together an event that people can come to and then they go home, because what happens in between? And it's really that in between that we're trying to build on. And it's more than just building a community. It's building each person in that community as an individual as well. And I know we've said the word empowering a lot, but we really have been focusing hard on we can't grow as a community unless each component in it is also growing. And how do we do that? And so, education initiatives, we do various different workshops for professional development, for social change. We offer opportunities. We're doing a workshop with the CELC right now. It's an anti-racism course and a justice and art course. And our board is taking it, but we also offered that to the community at large. And I think that's really where that difference stands out.
That sense of community, though, is just reiterate, so important. And I will even say it is life-saving word. So a healthcare system around here has this program where they have their board members participate in this kind of educational panel where different representatives from the community will represent different lived experiences of certain groups in the healthcare system. And I participated in that, kind of representing queer and BIPOC individuals. And they started a conversation with that, with talking about the statistics of mental health crises and self-harm among queer people and their relationship to the healthcare system. And thinking about those statistics and like Queerlective's role within the community made me quite emotional because, like Ashley said, it's beyond what we do is beyond just organizing events. We're providing people connections to others within the community, connections to other people that are like them. And it is life-saving work because people don't feel isolated. People are able to share their stories in a space where they know that they will be heard, they will be understood, and that they will be accepted and they will be celebrated for being their most authentic self. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really just that the support system that we've cultivated too is huge. I mean, we have a Discord server with, I don't even know how many members we're up to now. I think around 200 maybe, which is no small number for a local community Discord. And it's very active with people talking about all sorts of things, just casual conversations about what they're reading or the video game they're playing. But we also have a channel on it dedicated to queer life where people can connect and ask for advice on, what binders should I use and things along those lines. And it's a place, you can ask those questions. It's normalized to ask those questions. It's safe to ask those questions, and you're going to get honest answers without judgment. And I think that's very rare in today's society.
I didn't realize that you had a Discord server, and that's very exciting to me too, because I think I came out in my early 30s, and I didn't know where to find community really at all too. So this is like knowing that there's a Discord server so it's easy for folks to connect, even if they're not physically in the same place, is awesome. And then like you're able to connect folks through the events as well too, and attract in people who might not have known about Queerlective otherwise. So I'm so grateful. I think just to affirm that idea of this being life-saving work, it really is creating those support systems and connections, especially in a time where queerness is being attacked all the time right now too. And I know that this episode will come out later, but we just had the governor sign a bunch of really shitty bills. And it feels really hard, I think, in these moments to know that there's such an uphill battle that this community is facing. But it does feel a little less daunting, I think, when we're doing it together.
Yeah. And the thing that I also always think about Queerlective is that our work is so rooted in celebration and joy. We want to make queer and BIPOC joy the norm. And so we do recognize, and we have conversations and do whatever we can to support the members of the community that are working to address those kind of policies and bills that are being pushed through legislature. But self-care is radical. Self-care is still extremely, extremely important in terms of continuing this upward battle of social change within the community. We mentioned it already, that aspect of burning yourself out. If you don't have these spaces where you can go and be happy and comfortable and be able to celebrate with your community, and you're just like fighting all the time, that's gonna burn you out, and it's gonna create a system that's not sustainable. And so Queerlective really, while we do a lot of social change work, we're still also very rooted in that self-care and joy and community celebration.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody earlier today who was saying that in their full-time job, they have to code switch all the time. And they just wanted these spaces where they didn't have to code switch. And they're in the process of building their own business so that they can really be able to do that themselves. And it feels like that's the same thing you've all done, is build this place where everybody can be themselves and find one another and do it through art too, which is also one of my favorite parts of this. Because I identify as like an amateur artist as well too, and I love painting, and it was one of the things that helped me also own some of my queerness too. When I started painting, I started to feel more like myself. I started to feel more comfortable in being able to own all of those and to go public with all those aspects of myself. And it was I don't know. It's one of those things that has also helped me through so many mental health challenges as well, too. And just being able to step into that, even though I'm like, I know I'm not showing my stuff in galleries and things like that. I just am doing it because it feels good and it flows and it creates, I don't know, it just creates something really tangible and important in my life in that way. And I don't know, I'd love to hear, Randall, like, I've seen your artwork before and I love it. Like, tell me more about your art. Just share a little bit more about what it's like.
Yeah, so I'm a multimedia sculptor. I love using unconventional materials to create like novel pieces that I experiment with light and color. The first nerd medium that I really experimented with was iridescent cellophane and using resin to sculpt it into these really fun and whimsical shapes. And since then, I've been experimenting with like other materials and other processes, like 3D printing, laser cutting to create pieces that are kind of like reimagining like things from our world and like a little bit of like an alien-ish kind of universe where things are like sparkly and shiny. I love shiny, but also like just experimenting with like form and shape and like this boundary between the natural form and like making it unnatural and using materials to kind of glamorize it at the same time. It's hard to describe. I'm still working on my artist statement. I'm not sure.
That's okay.
But, yeah.
I love your shiny artwork. I really do.
Thank you.
And I love seeing it like on the walls, like it, when you're showing your work, because it feels, I don't know, there's something really captivating about it.
Yeah, and it's the type of artwork too where you'll see a piece and you're like, that's a Randall original. Like there's such a distinction about what you create versus what anything else I've ever seen. And I really just appreciate your process and the things that you do, Randall. I don't know if I ever told you, but like I find it so inspiring because, one of the reasons I struggle calling myself an artist is because I get so stuck in my head about like getting things out, and I see your art and I'm like, you're saying screw it, and you just full send and you just make the thing and it comes out amazing. And I know, there's been times where something didn't turn out the way you wanted to, but then you worked with it and you made it into an incredible piece, even though it's not what you were going for. And I think that is amazing. And I'm very jealous and I want to be like you when I grow up.
I will say one of my favorite comments to get on my art is when people tell me that they've never seen anything like it before. I'm like, I don't care if you like it or not. I love making stuff that you have never seen before. And that, I guess, that is really the big motivation for me for a lot of my art. Even if things don't turn out right, there is always still somebody that will resonate with it. A couple of months ago, so Queerlective is working on kind of building up a physical space in Concord. We're sharing space with DIY Craft and Thrift. We'll be doing more to kind of open up that space to the community going forward. I think who knows what that space will be by the time this episode comes out. But as we were setting up the retail space there, I just wanted to like fill out the space with like a lot of artwork, and it's easy for me to just like print my own stuff sometimes just to like get stuff out there. And so I had my iPad that I use Procreate for like a lot of like digital illustrations, and I had a bunch of stuff that had never seen the light of day, just like me experimenting and playing around. And I printed a bunch of them, just like one or two of each of them, and just added them to the retail space. And it's wild because every single one, at least one print of each design has sold. And these are still like designs that I'm like, I didn't think it was good. And so there's still somebody that will resonate with your piece, which is just really, really wild.
It's such a big deal to put it out there and make it like visible for folks. And it's like that I think takes a lot of courage to be able to do that.
It does. And I know that like this gets into a little bit of that imposter syndrome that I know so many people face. But I think with like kind of my take on imposter syndrome is, you're telling me somebody else can be me better than I can be me? That's crazy.
That's a great way of looking at that. Ashley, how has your relationship to crafting art like evolved since starting the organization?
Oh, quite a bit, actually. I still get stuck in my head a lot. And, I have a lot of half finished pieces, and I will get to them someday. But I'm finding myself now that they are half finished because I have so many more ideas, because I'm feeling more inspired and braver because of the people that I've met and the things that I see them do and the things that they've taught me, and less I'm feeling stuck in this project. And so I think like that's been a huge change for me, but I've also been able to turn that into, we talked about self-care being really important. And I think just creating is self-care. And I've really tried to use that as a regular habit to find a way to express myself when I can't get the words out. And I think that has been something that I am more comfortable doing since we started Queerlective, and just trying things out and being okay if they maybe don't turn out the way I wanted them to. Sometimes I still do give up on a project if that's the case, but I also feel more inspired to figure out, and I think in part this is because of Randall, figure out how do I make the best of this not turning out a certain way. And, I have this assumption in mind, and it's okay that it didn't work out. How do I move forward?
I like that idea of the art gets stronger in community too, and just like be in proximity to other folks and learning from people, to me is, I don't know, that's one of the things that makes me really happy to hear you all say, because all of my art is just like squirreled away here. It's not like I put it out on Instagram every once in a while. And I had a conversation with an artist on Friday, and he was so kind. He looked at my art, gave me a couple of really, really helpful tidbits of advice that I can't wait to go put into practice. And just talking about my art and showing it to somebody made me want to go make more art. And I haven't picked up a paintbrush in months at this point. And I think that that's like one of the pieces that you're all doing too, is you're giving people the impetus and that little nudge to start doing the art themselves too. And just to, I don't know, being able to talk about it, I think has a lot of power.
Yeah, we have a lot of people join our Discord, and it makes me laugh because I'm the same way. And just seeing myself in these folks is like they'll join and introduce themselves and say, I'm not much of an artist, but I write poems. Honey, that's art. Mm-hmm. So I definitely agree with your point there. And I think too, like one of the things that has helped is we are using art as a tool to create this community. And I think it is such an easy way for people to connect if they have something in their hands that they're working on and being productive. I think it makes conversation and connecting so much less intimidating.
Yeah, it really does. I think that that's really true. And I never create in community. Like I'm never around other folks when I create. There's like a level of privacy I like to have. And now that we're talking about this, though, I'm like, oh, maybe I got to go. Maybe I actually have to start branching out a little bit. I got to start showing up at those events more often.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Randall knows that I like never leave the seacoast because I'm such a brat about that.
My part is making it. It's challenging making it out there sometimes, especially with the events that are on the weeknights. We went to one event that it was a karaoke night, and Jason and I drove out there at like from Manchester at 7, and it's like an hour, and we were there for an hour. Oh yeah, we saw you there. Yeah. And then we had to drive back, and I was so tired.
Yeah. And I was so excited because I walked from my place because it was right down the road from my place, so it was easy for me. And we had been on because I had just given a workshop, so you all hopped off at the end of the workshop to drive, and then
we had a workshop, and then that's what happened. Okay,
yeah, but it was one of those places too, and I I am really a hermit. It's really sad. I should leave my apartment more. Because this place is like half a mile from my place. And I was like, this is the queerest community that I have been in so long, was at karaoke night. And I just was like, oh, I have to do. And then I also knew half of the people there too, because that's who I am, as like such an extrovert. I knew everybody. And I'm like, okay, I should actually leave my apartment more. But it was like a Wednesday night. Nobody goes out on a Wednesday night.
They did for a night.
Yeah, I know. Everybody was there till like late too. I didn't leave until probably close to 11, I feel like.
Well,
so
that's way past my bedtime.
I know. So tell me a little bit more about some of just like the big things that are on the horizon for Queerlective. What are some of the things that you've got in the works that you're excited about?
Yeah, so I mean, I always feel like we're on like the nexus of our like next like phase, and it feels like we're there, and we definitely are. We've gone, just in the first half of this year, we've gone through so much growth, like budget wise too. It's like really crazy to like go from like having an annual budget of 30,000, and then this year we're going to be like over 100. That's wild to like grow that quickly. And we're basically halfway through the year. Like, that's crazy already. Like, but the thing that I really just like, am so proud about and really excited to talk more about it or share more with our community is the new team members that we've brought on. And so we have a full like rundown of our team. I'm the executive director. Ashley is the marketing director. Jason is our event coordinator. And we brought on Taylor Brown, who is our community care advocate. She's our Queerlective's designated best friend to the community, because she's just such an amazing person. And she is helping with like self-care things for the community, like helping with some of our suicide prevention workshops that we're doing with the community. And she'll be helping more with developing some resources for us to share across the community, but also more casual hangouts that are a little bit more of like drop-in stuff for people to participate in. We have April Landry, who just joined, who is our team development coordinator, and she is working to develop projects that address or like improve both internally and externally our community's capacity. And so internally, she is the one kind of spearheading our anti-racism education through the cultural equity learning community that we're participating in. She has also been helping with the suicide prevention stuff as well, but she'll be doing more work to provide some leadership training and opportunities to Queerlective's community, and then also making sure our internal team is consistently going through equity training as well. And then we have Jackie Hansen, who is our local artist professional development coordinator. And so she's there to make sure that local artists have the skills and resources to be able to succeed. And so, yeah, we're, like I mentioned earlier, the new team members have really hit the ground running and really have already contributed so much to Queerlective. And I know that they'll have a lot to share very soon coming up. And also, we are working on that physical space. It says that this episode's going to come out October 9th. And so the space that we're in, the physical space, is temporary, but it is giving us the opportunity to kind of flush out this idea of what we want for a physical space. Obviously, we want a retail space there that gives another avenue for local artists to sell their work, to make some profits from that. But a big thing that we really want for the local space is for it to essentially be kind of a community studio or like a maker space. And so for specifically geared for artists and craft people. And so in the space, we will have things like nice photo printers for artists to print stuff out instead of struggling to go order prints online and you get them and they don't look the way you want. Laser cutters, 3D printers, and other stuff that like artists specifically need for their small business. And so we're really excited to provide these opportunities and resources and equipment to local artists to help support their crafts. And then Queerlective is working on a strategic plan and community impact report, which really will help us document in a nice and pretty way the ways that we want Queerlective to grow, but also the importance of Queerlective to our community. And those should be really impactful tools as we continue to grow.
We have other stuff coming up too that we haven't announced quite yet, but some festivals that we're partnering with. So there's never nothing happening over here at Queerlective.
I love just the breadth of everything you're doing, really and truly. The idea of being able to support artists and help them. I've seen a couple of the workshops where it's like, figure out how to photograph your art, how do you, I can't remember some of the other ones, but there were so many that I was like, oh, that's awesome that artists are getting, I need to learn how to do all of that and sell my art and things like that.
Yeah. So the other thing that I do want to share our most recent professional development workshop was that how to photograph your art for artists. And what we did was take the list of equipment that the workshop facilitator shared, and we went out and bought that stuff. And these are things that we'll now carry in our shared community space for artists to come and use. And one of those things just got here today, actually, and it's these LED piano lights that I'm using for my right now. And so these are we're using these to educate ourselves. We're using these workshops to educate ourselves in our community, but we're also using these workshops as opportunities to what kind of equipment and tools can we get to help local artists? Because the LED piano lights aren't cheap, but if we're able to share it with artists, it makes it much more affordable and much more accessible. So
I think that's awesome. It feels very, I want to say iterative, but that's not the right word for me that I'm thinking of, but just that you're learning as you go, I guess. And yeah, it's beautiful to see that.
Yeah, you absolutely are. I think Ashley has probably mentioned that a lot of the work that we do for Queerlective is a little self-serving, and I will 100% agree. Even Jackie, our professional development person, has talked about a lot of the workshops that she has on the pipeline that we're working on are things that she is curious about because she is a practicing artist herself. And so, yeah, I think that is also a very exciting thing about Queerlective. And as the kind of leader of Queerlective, it is very intentional, the way that I want people that are helping us to still be able to take something for themselves. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's supporting artists in so many different ways, through community, through literal, tangible access to these things that'll help them grow as artists and grow a business, and training them in things that are perhaps a little less tangible too, that'll also strengthens the artist community across the state and beyond. Because you've had people in one of the workshops I did for you all, you had somebody from Arizona, I think.
Yeah, it's really interesting, how far our reach can be. So we had a business do a fundraiser for us, the Artists and Craftsmen Supply. They don't have any stores in New Hampshire, but they found out about us through social media, and they hosted a fundraiser for Queerlective, which is wild to think of. How did you find us? And that has happened quite a number of times. We get messages through our website, people from all over wanting to engage and work with us. So it's really cool and exciting.
I just am looking at the time now, and I want to make sure that we wrap up soon. But for both of you, I'm so interested to hear what it means to give a damn.
Yeah. So I can start that off. So I think for me, people always say don't take it personally, but I do. And that's one of those things where I have to set, oh gosh, what's the word? Boundaries for myself on taking it too personally, but there's that, emotional connection, and it is next to impossible to separate that and what we do from emotions. And it can be really exhausting, but it is so worth it. And I think part of that and part of giving a damn is just the persistence of doing it. Because when you do hit that wall and you're exhausted and you're tired and the work is really hard, because it can be really hard, knowing that you just take another step and then you take another step and then you take another step. And what you're doing with all of these steps is really paving a path for this community to come together, and that, keeping the end goal in mind, and knowing what it is going to do and what it is going to mean. It really helps me keep that drive.
I love that so much. Yeah, Randall.
I would say for me, it's all about intentionality and authenticity. I think that it can be very easy in life to just kind of go through the motions without really thinking about like why you're making decisions. And I think taking the time to self-reflect and really be more authentic to yourself, and then making sure that the decisions and actions you do in your life have intention behind them is really, really important. And I think authenticity is the most beautiful, gorgeous, hot, sexy thing ever. And so, yeah, everyone be more authentic and then act with intention.
Yes.
And if you're more authentic, you'll be hotter and sexier.
True.
Yes.
It's the pipeline to being your sexiest self.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like that. Thank you both so very much for being here today. This is awesome. I love Queerlective. I love you both, and I love what you're doing. So just thank you so much. And is there anything else that either of you want to add?
No, I think I'm just really grateful for this journey and this community, and Erin, for you for letting me get this all out. I'm not great at sharing my emotions and talking, and so like I can be authentic and humanize myself to a limit. And so I think this has been really helpful, and I hope anyone listening finds that helpful as well. And reach out to us. We're here. We're humans, and we want to connect with people and help them make connections.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure that we have links to like the Discord, links to the, to the website, all of those, and all of obviously your social media too, because it is so good. And so that folks can start to find you as well too.
Thank you so much for having us, Erin. We love you too. You are such a valuable collaborator for Queerlective. And so thank you for having us on tonight. And
yeah, thank you both so much.